Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 25th anniversary annual meeting of the Academy for Lifelong Learning. I'm Russ Carlson, currently the chair of the AL Board of Directors. And let me start by saying how delighted we are that you are with us today. I'm reminded that our members are also our friends, our colleagues, coaches, instructors, classmates, former board and committee members, volunteers, and supporters. In other words, we're a community. We are so proud of AOL, and we deeply appreciate your support and participation. You are what makes AOL possible. So let's take a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll get some opening comments by our Vice Provost, Robert Squires. We'll move into acknowledgements, then the state of the Academy, a couple of special anniversary recognitions, some program updates by part of our leadership on the board, and then we'll talk about the voting process. So let's begin by introducing Robert Squires. I'm proud and happy to introduce Robert. He's the Vice Provost for the Western Department of Outreach and Continuing Education. Robert's been a terrific partner and supporter of AOL, and we are very fortunate to have him with us today. Robert?
Thanks, Russ, for the introduction, and I'm very happy to be here. I have just a couple of brief opening comments. The first is to recognize the importance of the educational and cultural programming that the Curriculum Committee and leadership of ALL have provided during this challenging period. Beyond the outstanding educational opportunities, the ability to maintain ALL community connections through the programming has no doubt made a profound difference in people's lives. Community is such an important part of health and wellness, and in this regard, ALL continues to carry great weight. The second point is to recognize the role of the leadership of the board of directors and Russ and Michu in particular. Through their leadership, I recognize a board that has established an excellent understanding of the management and operations needed to be successful. The commitment, creativity, and hard work of Russ and Michu has been exemplary. With the current foundations and leadership in place, I know that you're well positioned to address any current challenges. The development of the endowment fund also ensures that the long-term outlook for ALL remains very bright. It is a great pleasure to be your partner at Western in this, and I look forward to continuing our support of this important work. Thank you for all that you do. And I'll pass it back to you, Russ.
Thank you, Robert. And once again, we feel so fortunate to have you leading the OCE team. And we'd like to move next into acknowledgements and begin by acknowledging your team. The Outreach and Continuing Education team is behind the scenes working tirelessly on behalf of OCE and also AOL. We just can't say enough about the commitment and the energy, the creativity, and the support that Robert and your team has given us. And I can't excuse me, not include Anthony in this recognition. Anthony, you're the director of senior director, and you have just been a terrific partner, working tirelessly to help us move forward and get through this time. And also, especially since Athena, who I'm also going to recognize and want to acknowledge, she recently went to another place in the workforce, but she was with us and showed her creativity and dedication to AOL, and in her absence now during the transition to another administrator, Anthony has done her job as well. And I just can't say enough about how much that's meant to us and how extraordinary your work has been, Anthony. So thank you. And of course, I also have to call out the name of Mary McLaughlin. She's the voice on the other side. Anytime anybody calls the AOL line, there's Mary. And anybody who's interacted with her knows how patient and diplomatic and responsive she is to every single call. There's a saying, no call too small. And Mary just exemplifies that norm. So just shout out and a big thank you to Outreach and Continuing Education. I'd next like to acknowledge our board of directors. This is a group of super contributors. We have an executive team, including Susan Reese and Donna Moore. Susan's our vice chair and Donna's part of our leadership team and secretary, which is really the guardian of the archives, the custodian of the archives, and the guide as we go through our different deliberations on what the rules are and how we navigate the bureaucracy sometimes. And then we have Monica, who is and Jeff, who are on the excursion committee, and right in the center, that big smiling face is our newest member, Susan Carey. We're so happy to have her here. She's on the current curriculum committee currently and already contributing. On the lower left is our super contributor, Adam Moles. We'll talk about him a little later, and Jim West and Mishu. We'll talk a little more about them, and you'll hear them do, Jim and Mishu will be doing a presentation. So I'm so privileged to be part of this team, and without their support, AOL wouldn't be what it is today. So thank you, folks. We have a retiring board member, Peggy Loudon, and I just want to say a big thank you to retiring board member Peggy, who just for her willingness to serve on the board, and Peggy for your authenticity. We appreciate you and thank you for being part of our team. And we wish you well. And by the way, that picture is somewhere other than the United States. It's probably either, well, it could be Egypt or Ireland or goodness knows where, but she's a world traveler and a very, very interesting and kind person. Thank you, Peggy. You'll hear more about the curriculum committee from Mishu later, but I have to say that this is the workhorse of AOL. This is the team that brings you the courses and the field trips and the quality programming that makes AOL what it is today. Our chair, Adam, is he does a number of things and he does them all very well. Aside from being the chair of the CURCOM committee, he's a number cruncher, he's our data deliverer, he's a board member, of course, and he's also the person that's most often there setting up and stowing the equipment for all our in-person classes. Adam just rolls up his sleeves and makes sure things gets done. And this CURCOM committee is an extraordinary group of talented and committed people. We also want to recognize the excursion committee, Monica and Jan and Jeff. They've been with us for quite some time, and Monica will tell you a little bit later about what the plans are as we come out of the post-COVID era. And we just really appreciate the work that they've done. They've taken us over the border and down south and to the east of the state. And we just can't wait to hear from Monica on their plans. And then we have the volunteers, and they're just so many, too many to name, but they help us with setup at the classrooms. They help us in so many ways. Of course, we're all volunteers, the boards and the committees and the like. But we just thank you all for helping us make AOL the community treasure it is. We can't thank you enough, and we just so much appreciate you. So thank you. Now we move into the state of the academy. And I'm pleased to present some information for you. I'm going to start by reminding us, as we remind ourselves every day when we make decisions, that we are inspired by the belief that a curious mind never retires. And the AOL is really a volunteer-led community, providing a variety of educational and cultural programs in a pressure-free environment. And Mishu's pointed out on a number of occasions that one of the things that our instructors appreciated is that it is a pressure-free environment. So not only do the participants, but the instructors as well appreciate this from us. Memberships, there's a little number on the bottom left, 142 this time last year. We're up to 215 members. a couple things. One is we're working back to our 300 to 400 membership. So we're on the mend, and other graphs will show this. But we are just very proud of being able to sustain a healthy number of members, and we appreciate you who we're talking to and addressing right now as I speak. And also, I want to note that anecdotally, people do join AOL and become members for a variety of reasons. There's a discount, of course, but there are also some other benefits. And I recently had a privilege of meeting a member who has been using the pool at the recreation center over the last 19 years. And because part of our mission is to contribute to the overall quality of life and health of our community, it just reminded me of how much AOL can make a difference in our community. I also am going to ask Jim West, who is a board member, to make a couple comments about the Membership and Marketing Committee, which he chairs and created. And Jim, if you'd make I'd like you to mention the members on your committee, if you will, and maybe what you're going to be doing at the farmers market. So I'll hand it off to you for a moment, Jim.
Thank you, Russ. We put the committee together so we could expose more people in the Bellingham-Whatcom County community to ALL because we don't think we're well enough known. So we have a small but enthusiastic set of people working on the committee, including Monica Ackerman, Liz Christner, Jeff Eastman, Lori Jump, and Emily Weaver. One of our first activities is to host a table at the upcoming Bellingham market at 3 different times throughout the summer. So the committee is just getting started, but we're really enthusiastic and we hope to make a big increase in memberships available to ALL. Thanks, Russ.
Thank you, Jim. Our next slide shows how we have been able, the curricula committee has been able to, throughout the last couple of years and throughout this past year, contributed to basically the same number of courses, very similar to prior years. So you can see that in the fall, winter, we had 18 courses. And then spring, summer, we're currently in the midst of offering 21 courses. That's remarkable. Excursions have been down for the last 2 years, but they'll be ramping up. You'll hear that from Monica. We have extraordinary interest groups, a total of 3. Mishu will be talking about them. And then I also at the bottom wanted to mention the AOL monthly talks, and Jim will be talking more about them later on in the presentation. But what a great program and menu, especially considering what we've been going through together. Our next slide shows how our courses and excursion registrations were in the 1,600 range pre-COVID. And of course, it went down to 905, and now it's starting to rise again back up to 912. That's again remarkable, and just a shout out to Mishu and the Kirkcom committee for creating, without much notice, a Zoom program. And we find that not only are Zoom classes very popular, in part because we've been able to bring in instructors from elsewhere. Again, I'll let Mishu talk more about that, but just a remarkable accomplishment. And as you can see, we're starting to the numbers are starting to increase again. It's a great result. This is an updated slide that's been inserted after our previously recorded presentation. We did this so we could present the most accurate projections for this fiscal year. If you happen to notice a change in the flow of this part of the recording, that's the reason. As you can see in red, the net negative projected income expense number is a little over $10,000. This is being covered by a $20,000 CARES grant, which Robert and his team were able to secure. The grant will also be able to cover any deficit we might have during the next year as well. However, the board will be looking closely at restoring our long-standing record of positive cash flow as soon as possible. I should mention here that the board of directors had decided to use the large dome room at the cruise terminal during this past academic year, and this extra cost was the main reason for the deficit. This was a conscious decision by the board. The decision was made so that our classroom participants could feel more comfortable and safer in the larger space. And our participants told us that, and they said they appreciated it. As we move forward, the board will continue to closely monitor our financial situation, and we are always looking at ways to find additional revenue through grants, enhanced marketing, and of course, increased participation. The board is also focusing on ensuring the long-term feasibility of ALL. More will be said about that later, but I would like to point out at this time that our estimated fund balance is approximately $57,000. $40,000, that amount includes our established reserve for emergencies, and the balance has the remaining grant dollars mentioned earlier. In conclusion, I'd like to say that while it's been a difficult and challenging 2 years, it has still been remarkably fulfilling and rewarding for your board of directors. We get much of our energy from the meaningful work we all do, as well as from you, our ALL membership. The state of the academy remains strong and our future remains bright. During the last year, during this academic year, there was the establishment of our endowment fund. This is just a remarkable accomplishment. It was established single-handedly by Miss Hsu and her husband, Gordon. I say that because it required a $25,000 contribution, which was a required amount in order to establish the fund. Since then, Miss Hsu has single-handedly administered the fundraising efforts and outreach. It's just a remarkable accomplishment for the purpose of continuing our legacy and ensuring the future of ALL. We also had another mega donor, Susan Reese, a member of the board, who contributed $20,000 matching fund contribution. And that $20,000 was matched. And to date, we have $56,255 in cash in our endowment fund and $90,000 in bequests, totaling $146,000 and $146,255. Just a remarkable accomplishment. Miss Hsu, would you like to make a comment?
I think that the endowment fund is important for the sustainability of ALL going far into the future, so that we can have this fund that we pull off dividends from, and that will help us in our administrative costs, and perhaps to provide scholarships in the future for those who would need it. So the endowment fund is extremely important for ALL as an organization.
Thank you, Miss Hsu. The next slide will show you our founding patrons. These are folks that within a certain time period donated to ALL for the endowment fund. And we are recognizing and want to continue recognizing their generosity and their commitment to the program. There's an asterisk by the names of folks that were designated by Western as part of the President's Society by virtue of donating $1,000 or more. And everybody did what they could. It was just so clear that people were so generous in so many ways, whether it was $100 or $1,000 or $50, it didn't matter. But we thank you all and recognize you we're just honored to have received your acknowledgement and your contributions. I also will mention that the donor wall is on the ALL website. So these names are there for anybody to look at and remember those who showed their generosity. So thank you folks so much. I'm very honored to address a special recognition. This is our 25th anniversary. ALL was conceived in 1997, And these two instructors were here at the ground floor. They were with Leanne Golden and Virgine, who were the founders of AOL, and Lois Longwood, who was the senior director at the time. But I asked Adam to give me a short bio, and then I asked each of the instructors to say something. And I'm going to read that because these folks are part of our community treasure. And most of us have met them, taken their courses, interacted with them. They are extraordinary individuals. So I'll start with David Drummond. This is Adam's giving me the bio, and I think Adam knows him as well as anybody for many years. David Drummond, naturalist extraordinaire, has been sharing his knowledge of the living world around us with the Academy for as long as anybody can remember, including an amazing 42 classes in the last decade alone. He works on expedition ships and leads wildlife tours around the planet as a naturalist and wildlife specialist, lecturer, and photographer. He also works regionally as a wildlife biologist with the Coastal Forest Merlin Project. He writes nature articles, enjoys creating poetry about his time with people and nature, and is hard at work on a Merlin book project. I asked David to comment, and this is him, quote, "As I remember," this is David speaking, "I was already teaching elder hostel at WWU around the region with other universities and NGOs when someone told me about the new startup called AOL. I went to talk with Keats Gardman, I believe he was the vice provost at the time, and then to Leanne Golden about regional and beyond naturalist courses. I sent in proposals and they were very enthusiastic and supportive. We had a good reception from the membership, and I was happy to also get involved with the excursions, and the rest is history. It was fun to be invited to present a PowerPoint on the metamorphosis of AOL at the organization's 15-year celebration. Thank you all," says David, "for your interest, support, and friendship during the last 25 years. David, what more can we say except thank you? We're so proud to have you as part of our community. I'd like to now talk about David Tucker. Again, if you haven't taken one of his classes, please do so. It's just an amazing experience. Adam writes, David Tucker has taught science education at both high school and college levels. He holds BS and MS degrees from Washington State University in chemistry. He has been awarded fellowships at Bell Laboratories, DuPont, and Genentech. With support from the World Wildlife Fund, David has spent time in the Amazon rainforest analyzing medicinal plants. In 1986, he received the National Science Foundation Exemplary Teaching Award. He has taught 14 science classes for AOL in the last decade, ranging from ancient DNA to the fabric of the cosmos itself. David writes, I think I started teaching for AOL in 1997. Leanne Golden asked me to do a class and I just sort of hung around. Nobody could get rid of me. Like the rest of my teaching career at WWU, at Western, and at Mount Baker High School, and presentations around the country, I've always felt that science needs to be considered as a survival skill. In our complex society, understanding how humans are part of a bigger entity will help us save the planet. We need all the help we can get to survive. My AOL teaching has certainly evolved, going from typical college-type current offerings to more, quote, learning about the whole forest instead of just the trees attitude. I absolutely love adult learners. They have taught me so much. Every time I teach a class, I receive a new insight about life from the group. I leave every class inspired to do better. Teaching in AOL has helped me appreciate my mistakes and my humanness. It makes me a better person. Thank you, David Tucker. It's time to move on to the program updates, and I'm going to turn it over to Mishu, and we're going to start with courses and field trips. So Mishu.
Thank you, Russ. Adam, who is our CURCOM chair, has overseen yet another year of transition for all of us while he teaches on the faculty of Western. He has volunteered to do all of the AV and setup for the fall and winter term and then handed it over to Russ. We get plenty of help from members in our classes. It does indeed take a village. We had 4 new members on our committee this year. Susan and Michael joined us in the fall, and our 2 younger members, Liz Krisner and Liz Weber, joined us this spring. They all bring fresh ideas and are working to bring new courses and new instructors to ALL for all of us. We are happy to report that we returned to in-person courses for this entire year using the Dome Room at the cruise terminal primarily. And as you can see, it's very spacious with plenty of room for distancing. We do continue to align with Western in their guidelines and require vaccinations for all instructors, facilitators, and students. In September, we will verify shot number 3 for all of those who participate, and we will continue to have masking optional. In response to requests from members, we do also continue some of our courses via Zoom for local instructors if they wish, and for instructors from out of the area, such as ours this year from New Mexico and Southern California. In the fall, we will have instructors Zoom in from Seattle, Oregon, and California. We want to thank our 2 Zoom coaches, Mike and Valerie Hernig, who work with our instructors and our members tirelessly now for the 3rd year. Regarding our field trips, we resumed our birding and salmon field trips, and many, many members enjoyed being together in the wide open spaces, and we will continue to do that in the coming year. Looking forward, we are very excited to add more hands-on courses, such as an introduction to sketching and landscape painting, mushroom identification field trip, an earthquake seismogram lab. We will have a Bay Area artist and coordinate with Monica's excursion committee for an excursion down to the Seattle Museum where her exhibit will be shown. And we also plan to add more healthcare support type courses as we endeavor to age gracefully. Regarding our interest groups, CIRCOM continues to coordinate these 3 self-directed interest groups that are complementary to ALL members. They continue to operate via Zoom to enable members from out of state and out of the country, and our guest speakers from out of the country. Our contemporary readings discussion group runs the first Monday of every month from 10 to 12, and members rotate in facilitating the discussion of each book. We now are a registered book group at Village Books, which entitles us to an additional discount. The history discussion group runs the first Monday of every month from 1 to 3. The members research and make presentations, such as the 2-parter this year on the American music theater. Our World Affairs discussion group runs on the first Tuesday of every month from 10 to 12 and is now completing its 6th year. We have members that will make presentations on topics such as foreign trade, cryptocurrency, and Yemen, as well as our international guest speakers that we have this year from Germany, Australia, and Japan. On schedule coming up will be guest speakers from China, Okinawa, and Sweden so far. If you want to participate in any of the courses, please contact me and I will happily add you to our email listservs. Lastly, we also invite you to speak to any one of our committee members with suggestions or referrals for new instructors. Your input is valued and appreciated as we strive to serve our learning community. On behalf of the Curriculum Committee, we thank you for your continued support for ALL. Back to you, Russ.
Oh, thank you, Mishu. We can't say enough about the work that you all do. Monica, would you talk a little bit about the Excursion Committee?
Yes, I would. We are going to ease back into excursions with 2 offerings for this fall. The first is a day trip to a perennial favorite, that is the Shakespeare Festival at Bard on the Beach in Vancouver, Canada. If you've never been to Bard on the Beach, you need to know that the productions are performed inside a very large tent with assigned seating, just like a regular theater. Our trip will be on Saturday, September 10th, for a matinee performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream, with a stop for lunch along the way. Border crossing regulations may change before that, but for now, to join this tour, you will need your passport or enhanced driver's license, plus your COVID vaccination card. In addition, when we board the bus in Bellingham, we will each get an individual form to fill out for Canadian authorities. This form can be completed on our way to the border. Meanwhile, Jeff Eastman is working on a 3-day excursion to Southwest Washington in the greater Astoria area. The dates for this trip are Friday, October 7th through Sunday, October 9th. Possible stops will include the state capitol in Olympia, Lewis and Clark sites along the north side of the Columbia River, Cape Disappointment, Art Clatsop, Columbia River Maritime Museum in Astoria, and maybe the Johnson Ridge Observatory. This trip, by the way, is still in the works, so some venues may change. Looking further ahead till spring, we haven't done anything positive yet, but we're looking at places in Seattle like the Wing-Luke Museum and the Japanese Garden, and to coordinate with Mishu's teachers' classes in the spring. We also might want to go to Eastern Washington, where David Tucker has helped us in the past, and maybe we can work out another trip there too. And finally, we're thinking of the Bread Lab, which is south of us, and we hope to get that organized for the spring. Planning and escorting excursions is rewarding and fun. So if you have some ideas for trips we might add to our calendar and would like to become part of the excursion committee, please let ALL know, because we would be very glad to have you join us. And that's the excursion committee as it stands now. Thank you, Russ. Back to you.
Thank you, Monica. It's great news. We can't wait to get back on the road again. Our next presenter will be Jim West. This is a gentleman who is a valued member of our board and who's created single-handedly the ALL Talks. Jim, would you talk to us about the talks?
Great, thanks, Russ. It was just a year ago at this time at the annual meeting that we introduced a brand new program for ALL. The program is named ALL Talks, and it is defined by these parameters. It will be held only by Zoom. The sessions are an hour, so we figured people would not want to drive too far. So ALL Talks is by Zoom and will remain by Zoom even when the pandemic situation is over. The talks are scheduled on the 3rd Friday of each month from September through May. And the sessions begin at noon and last approximately 1 hour. We're very pleased with the program during its inaugural year. Over the past 9 months, we have covered a variety of topics, including independent travel in Japan, how to keep your brain young with mental exercise. And we heard from Village Books about how their business was able to survive during the pandemic. We finished the year on May 20th with a session on how to use 911 in an emergency situation. Attendance at the talks varied by the subject, but we averaged 26 participants per session. The majority of our presenters are not professional lecturers, but are folks that we were able to find who have a passion and knowledge for their topics. The ALL talks will resume in October of this year, October 17th to be specific. If you check your calendar, you'll see that October 17th is a Monday, not a Friday. We are shifting the ALL talks to the third Monday of each month, and they will start at 2 p.m. instead of noon. This is based on feedback from potential attendees. They told us that for retirees, having a session that starts at noon and goes through their lunch hour doesn't compete very well with enjoying lunch. This is not like the business world where lunches are used for additional business meetings. We think this change in the day and the time will allow more people to attend. Now, you don't have to write these changes down because we will show the new times and dates with the announcements for the fall series. And next month, we will be sending you an email requesting your feedback as well as your suggestions for topics for the upcoming years. Thank you for your support and your interest in ALL Talks. Back to you, Russ.
Oh, Jim, we can't thank you enough for doing this program. It's been very popular, and we just can't say enough. We're now going to turn to the voting process. And before I introduce Donna Moore, our board secretary, I want to basically say that most of you know this, but the voting process is an annual meeting event that we have to do in order to get our open board positions filled. So Donna, I'll turn it over to you to discuss the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. The nominating committee is very happy to present to you the 3 candidates that you see listed on the board. Each one of these has already completed 1 term and is willing to run again to complete a 2nd term. They're all super outstanding. Monica has been on the board for several years and she chairs the excursion committee. Russ has been on the board for several years. He has been chair of the board for the last 5 years. And Adam has been on the board several years and he chairs the curriculum committee. Now, if you wish to vote for the people who have been nominated here, you will just click on the form that will be sent to you on June 20th, I believe. And you must cast your vote by June 27th. So it's just a click away that you vote for any one of those candidates. Now, if you would like to write in a vote, then you send the write-in to the Academy of Lifelong Learning email address, and you must do that by June 3rd. That address is a capital A, CAD, capital L at wwu.edu. So you have 2 options: vote for the candidates that were nominated, or you can send in a write-in vote. Okay, back to you, Russ.
Thanks, Donna. We are very fortunate to have you all as presenters and to have Robert join us today. Robert, thank you so much. We are going to close the 2022 annual meeting by wishing you all a wonderful summer, and we'll see you all again in the fall. Thank you, everyone.